It's so cold, I feel it in the backbeat, covered up with a nice warm melody. Put the kettle on, sit and watch the TV, write another song in another key. People talk, they never really mean it. Walk the walk whenever it's convenient. Turn the other cheek if the money's looking greener. Where's the empathy when you need it? Stranger danger, losing touch with Mother Nature. Who is gonna be her savior? What is home? Possessions or the feeling at one arm start to hit the ceiling, further from the truth, closer to revealing the damage has been done. And now what? Stranger danger, losing touch with Mother Nature. Who is gonna be her savior? Going through the motion, I'm a little frozen now, feeling numb. Going through the motion, looking for a reason now, feeling numb. Feeling numb. Going through the motion, I'm a little frozen now, feeling numb. Going through the motions, looking for a reason now, feeling
Oh, ah, oh, ah, oh, ah, oh, ah.
I'm gonna love you any day now, and I'll believe it when I say it out loud. But right now I'm digging through the hurt, looking for the words that I never find. Right now I'm digging through the hurt, looking for the words, trying to make a mind. I'm looking for the man that I'll never find. I'll know it when I look him dead in the eye. Don't want it if it's easy, but I wish it was, believe me. I'm looking for the man that I'll never find. I'm gonna please you any day now. Be the one who needs you any day now. And every time that I wake up, you'll be the first thing to cross my mind. Right now I wish that it was worth all the work and I wasn't tired. I can't just stop and try to fix it if I know that it was never right. I'm looking for the man that I'll never find. I'll know when I look him dead in the eye. Don't want it if it's easy, but I wish it was, believe me. I'm looking for the man that I'll never find. I thought that it would be you. I wanted it to be you. And I'm sorry, I was always looking for the man that I'll never find. I thought I know it when I looked you dead in the eye. Don't want it if it's easy, but I wish it was, believe me. I'm looking for the man that I'll never find. I'll know when I look him dead in the eye. Don't want it if it's easy, but I wish it was, believe me. I'm looking for the man that I'll never find. I'm looking for the man that I'll never find. I'm wishing that man was you tonight.
You are listening to The Current. I'm Jill Riley, and I'm in the studio with Lucius, who performed 3 songs, and we're going to talk about the music that you performed. We're going to talk about some news because I understand there's some new material, which is very cool. Jess and Holly, how are you? Welcome to The Current.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We love being here.
Yes.
I'm so glad to sit with you in person. I was thinking before we sat down, I remember having a Zoom conversation with the two of you during COVID. And that's such a weird time period because I thought, what were we talking about? And I don't know. And I know that during that time, some creative juices started to flow. And perhaps coming out of that time. Second Nature is the record that came out, spring of 2022. So you want to talk about Second Nature a little bit, because when I saw that Brandi Carlile and Dave Cobb were producing it, I was like, are they making a country record? Like that was my first thought. So, yeah.
No, but disco record. Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing when we were chatting through Zoom, it was talking about probably writing that material, because we were writing during that whole period. And we wanted to do new stuff. We wanted to write new stuff, and we had just started co-writing. Like, we had one co-write in person, right? And then lockdown hit. So we had a bunch of Zoom writes, and we had never done that before.
We were literally at Sheryl Crow's house where we were staying while we were writing. And when lockdown was announced, so we had to leave her house early to ensure that we'd be with our families.
Well, right. Or else you were going to spend 2 years at Sheryl Crow's house, which wouldn't be that bad.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been that bad.
Yeah.
So for the two of you to write together on Zoom, I mean, what did that feel like? Because, you really sing with the way that your voices blend. People will say they sing as one voice. Do you feel like, we write as one voice? Like, what did it feel like to be in different space?
We were a pod.
Yeah, we definitely were together. I don't think we could have gone 2 years or however long that period was.
Yeah, but we wrote with other people through Zoom, and they hated it. And we were like, we like this. We had never done it before. We had never done the co-writing with others before. And we liked kind of, the efficiency of it. Like, no one wants to be on the computer for longer than 3 hours. So it was,
Yeah, you're sort of like, you've got a mission to write a song. You've got a few hours to do it, and you do it.
Yeah.
It definitely cuts the fat.
Yeah.
So it was good for us, honestly. And also because we're sort of workhorses, it had been a long time since we sort of took the time to sit and write in a room.
Yeah.
And we were granted that wish.
We didn't know that at the beginning.
We didn't know that.
Then it kept going and going. Like, okay, we'll keep writing.
Yeah.
Which was good.
And what was kind of the common theme that started to bubble up when you were writing together? Because it's, I remember playing songs from the record and it feeling like, oh, we're dancing. Because people came out of the pandemic, like some people felt the joy of, we got to feel good out of this. And some, like when the record came out, it was like, oh yeah, that's how we felt for a while.
Yeah, I think in the beginning we were definitely writing more somber tunes. I was going through divorce, and that's what felt most natural. And then once we sort of got that out of the system, and I say we because we really do write on behalf of one another and together as a unit, like you said. And so, we're witnesses to each other's life in this very unique way. And our coffee talk is our songwriting session. So we're able to really get into each other's experience in this special way. But after writing about difficulty for a long time, on top of being locked in your house, we were like, I don't think anybody wants to hear anything depressing right now. We're all depressed. Let's try and make the difficulty fun, or at least try and see the light in the darkness in some way. And so we started writing dance tunes. In fact, we even held a dance party on Zoom with our fans during COVID.
And a lot of people showed up.
A lot of people showed up. People were lighting up their living rooms with, disco balls and lights and colorful costumes. And, it was this way to, how can we find a celebration in something that's challenging? And that kind of became the ethos.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard on I can't remember where it was, but they were talking about on some radio show how it was just like there was a huge purchasing of sparkles and reflective materials and things like towards the end of COVID makes total sense. I mean,
and in fashion too, we were noticing like holographic everything was readily available, which was great for our disco record.
Everyone was getting ready. Anyone who had been like furloughed that worked at any sort of sparkly glitter company was like, we're going to get
terrible
overtime.
for the environment.
But okay, so you're doing the writing, and then it was time to record. Why bring in Brandi Carlile? Why go down to Nashville? When did that decision come?
Dave.
I mean, why not with Brandi Carlile,
not?
First of all, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah, she's one of our closest friends, and we've done so much singing together, and she's really been a part of our journey in this special way. And Dave had sort of mentioned that he was interested in working with us and had a really strong vision for what he thought that would look like. And we kind of, because Brandi had collaborated with him so many times, we brought the idea to her, and she was like, I want to be in on this. She was excited. She wanted to be a part of the journey. And there's nothing like singing in front of a badass singer. Like you have to show up. And I think she really helped us to come to the studio every day with our, game on. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just watched that HBO special. So you two were just in my living room recently. That Live from Laurel Canyon thing. And it really, it felt like a lot of joy happening there. It was cool to see the two of you part of that. It's one thing to be on the road, in support of your record and doing your own headlining tour. But being on the road to support others, we were talking about all of the different people and bands and musicians that you've collaborated with. And I wonder, when did that start for the two of you? Who was the first band or artist that had kind of reached out to you to say, hey, can you come on the road with us? Can we work together? Because there are so many at this point. I was trying to list them out in my head.
I feel like Wilco was the first. Jeff, was the first that we really collaborated with in a way where we were an actual featured part of his project for the Tweety record, and also at Newport, our first Newport. We got to sing with him a bunch, and he introduced us to Mavis, and we got to sing with her. And Newport's definitely been a big part of our story too. Obviously, it is a place that just supports collaboration. And Jay Sweet was really the one who put us together with Roger Waters for the first time when we performed with him for his surprise set at Newport with My Morning Jacket as the band. Originally, we were only supposed to do a couple of songs, and then we got there and Roger had another idea, which was us on everything. And after that is when he asked us to be a part of the record and a part of his tour. And so a lot really bounced from those experiences. Us having sung with Roger, the War on Drugs had come to see us perform that show on tour. And so they asked us to sing with them. And Watt had seen us at Desert Trip.
That's how we got the Ozzy gig.
Ozzy Osbourne.
Wait. Ozzy gig? Tell me a little bit more about this.
We sang on his record on 5 tracks, which is really fun.
Yeah.
We didn't get to meet him. He wasn't around. But,
I know.
But we did have a lot of fun doing those songs. And it's been sort of one thing leading to the next. We've been really fortunate to be able to collaborate with so many different types of artists and from such different worlds. And it really has sort of kept our creativity flowing.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, how that's informed the music that you make now.
Yeah, I mean, just in that most of those people really wanted us to be us in their record. So we get to really explore, but with their music. So we're creating in and on things that wouldn't necessarily be things that we would write ourselves, obviously, but get us to sort of be creative in a way that we wouldn't normally be. And it's been really fun and has taught us a lot about what it is that we can do with our dynamics. And
Yeah. I'm talking with Jess and Holly from Lucius. So Second Nature is the latest album. One of the songs you performed today, The Man I'll Never Find. You also kind of went back to the beginning from the first full-length record. And my question is, what is it like? I mean, you sing a variety, like at this point, you have multiple records. And so you can really kind of pick and choose what you're going to, perform or put in your set. I mean, I don't know how that whole process works of putting together the live show. But you had a new arrangement of How Loud Your Heart Gets. And I wonder why you decided to go revisit that song or to update it.
Well, I think when we were putting together this tour and the music was dancey and had this kind of newer vibe, we were trying to think, well, which songs could we adjust to fit in with that kind of thing? And that was the one that we picked and made a new arrangement around. And now we really like the new arrangement because it, it brings a new life to a song that we've been singing forever.
Mm-hmm. I was looking at what you guys have coming up this fall, and I saw you're touring with a singer-songwriter from Colorado who I swear I was the last one to find out about because he's doing 2 nights at the Palace Theater, and I mean, that's a pretty decent-sized room here.
Yeah.
Gregory Allen Isaacoff. Ooh. Sorry, Greg. But what are you looking forward to with going on that tour? Again, I had somebody tell me about him recently, and I'm like, wait, everybody must be on board with this already because I don't know much about him.
Yeah, I think what we're most excited about is we're doing a super broken down set. So it'll just be Pete, Danny, Holly, and I, the 4 of us on tour, which we haven't done since early days.
Yeah,
and we're just excited to sort of bring it.
Yeah, reimagine, I guess, or I don't know, break it down like you're saying.
Yeah. I remember, the early days of Lucius and you coming into the studio here, and I remember counting 4 of you in the beginning. And you've added a couple more members to the band. How have things kind of evolved just with the band, Lucius, not just the 2 of you?
Yeah, I mean, Pete's just taking a little break right now, but he'll be back with us in October, which we're excited about. And we always are just thinking about what's best for the record and what's best for the show in, that particular cycle. And there's so many amazing artists and musicians that we love to collaborate with. So why not sort of adjust and move through it depending on the record?
Yeah.
And obviously Danny and Pete have been with us from pretty much the beginning. So
yeah, we always get ourselves in trouble making records because we start to layer things. It's like, oh, that could be cool. That could be cool. And then we make this, opera, and then it's like, how are we going to
do this?
But we figure it out.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, moving forward, how does it feel to be at this point? Do you feel like, wow, we made it out of that phase? I mean, it's maybe not phase, but at that kind of major moment of life, and here we are today.
Yeah, I mean, we have had many phases and hairstyles of Lucius. We're always evolving and sort of just allowing whatever it is in life that's happening to, be what it is and to be honest with whatever that is and honor it in a way. So, that's why maybe none of our records really sound alike, and our looks are evolving and, all of that, because we are evolving and changing as people. But that's exciting for us. It's always just to try and be true to who it is that we are in that particular time of our lives. What we write now is going to be a lot different than what we wrote, 19 years ago, which is how long we've been singing and writing together, which is crazy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. 19 years.
Yeah.
And you're only
and we're
21.
I know. It's just wild.
I do have to ask, because I've talked with musicians and people who are in bands who used to be married and are not anymore. Yeah. I never had the sit down with Fleetwood Mac. Okay, that's not what I'm saying.
Well, we've got one right here.
Yeah, right. But you look at history. There are bands where that works, and there are bands where that didn't work, and now the band is done, and you don't want that. You don't want that.
Yeah.
So going forward, because you and Danny used to be married. So what is it like, now to move forward together as a band? Because you didn't want that to be gone too.
No.
Yeah.
I think, that's why we held on for a long time.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to have to lose all the parts of a relationship. And you don't have to lose all the parts of a relationship. I think it's sort of archaic to think that just because your romantic relationship is not working, then no part of your relationship is working. Because, we were together for 10 years. It's there was some good in that,
Yeah, there's real history
there.
There's
history, yeah. And, I just feel so lucky that we both were mature and respectful and honoring enough of the good to not let it fully go and to really hold on to the parts that work. And luckily we both have supportive partners who are open to that. That really helps too, because if not, that would be a challenge.
Right.
Yeah. But we've been really lucky. I mean, we get along great. There's not really any drama. We're actually making a record and he's producing it now. And so there's a lot of beauty in there. I feel really fortunate. I wish I could talk about all the drama, but there's not that much of it.
Yeah. It's pretty much best case scenario.
Well, that's good. I mean, that is inspiring. I mean, not just for people who are in bands, just for people who are in relationships with each other.
And I think pandemic offered space that was necessary too, I think in any ending, there's, there needs to be space. So
totally.
Luckily we were, granted that time. And so when we came back together to record Second Nature, it was like, all right, here we are. We can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Could you tell us about the new song and maybe a few details about the new stuff you're working on?
Yeah. I mean, we started writing, mostly it's been me, Jess, and Danny in his space, kind of writing demos and putting together songs. And that was one of the first ones that came about. And it wasn't necessarily for anything at the time, but we really loved it. And it kind of set a tone for the rest of the record. But we really wanted to get back to our roots and kind of break things down a little bit and get to the heart of things. And Stranger Danger we were thinking about, people being kind of estranged from Mother Nature the more that time goes on, and how we're becoming a stranger to her, and how humans have sort of this backup plan with religion or technology or these other things, and Mother Nature doesn't who's going to be her savior is the final lyric of the chorus. So that's what we were kind of thinking when we wrote it.
Yeah. The Current is public media made possible thanks to member support.